The boy was bleeding. Not a lot. Just enough to see the cut above his eyebrow dripping slow and red down his cheek. He sat on the cold pavement outside a gas station in Atlanta, knees pulled to his chest, shaking. People walked past him. Some stared. Most didn't even look. He was just another homeless kid. Black, dirty clothes, no shoes, nobody's problem. But then 3 motorcycles pulled into the lot. The engines roared so loud the ground vibrated. Chrome gleamed under the streetlights. Leather vests with patches that read Iron Brotherhood MC moved like shadows across the concrete. The boy looked up. His eyes were wide, terrified. One of the bikers, a big man with gray in his beard and scars on his knuckles, walked toward him slowly. The boy flinched. "Easy, kid," the man said, his voice rough but gentle. "Who did this to you?" The boy didn't answer. He just shook his head. What happened next would change everything, because this wasn't just a homeless kid. This was someone's son, someone powerful, someone who had been searching for him for weeks. And when the truth came out, it would expose a system that had failed him, a community that had saved him, and a father who had almost lost him forever. This is a story about betrayal and brotherhood, about invisibility and identity, about how easily we ignore the people right in front of us until we realize who they really are. Let me show you exactly how this happened. His name was Terrence. He was 14 years old. 3 weeks earlier, Terrence had been living in a nice house in Decatur with his father, Agent David Monroe. His father was an FBI agent, 20 years in the Bureau. Respected, feared even. He investigated human trafficking cases across the South, but Terrence's mother had passed away 2 years before. Cancer. Fast and cruel. After that, something broke in their home. David threw himself into work. He was gone for days, sometimes weeks. Terrence was left alone with a housekeeper who barely spoke English and didn't care much about a grieving teenage boy. Terrence started skipping school. He hung out with the wrong kids, started smoking, got into fights. His father didn't notice. Or maybe he did, but didn't know what to say. Grief had built a wall between them, thick, silent, painful. One night they had a fight, a bad one. "You don't even care!" Terrence shouted, tears streaming down his face. "You're never here! You act like I don't exist!" David, exhausted and emotionally shut down, said something he would regret for the rest of his life. "Then maybe you should figure out how to exist without me." Terrence packed a backpack that night. He left through the window. He didn't leave a note. At first, David thought he'd come back. Kids run away all the time. They cool off. They come home. But days turned into a week, then 2 weeks. David filed a missing persons report. But here's the cruel irony. He knew the system. He knew how it worked. Black teenage boys who run away, they're not priorities. Even when their fathers are federal agents. Terrence had no phone, no money, no ID. He slept in parks, under bridges. He ate from dumpsters behind fast food restaurants. He learned quickly that being young, black, and homeless made you invisible. People looked through him like he was glass. Sometimes worse than invisible. Sometimes he was a threat. Store owners followed him. Security guards told him to move along. Cops asked him questions with hands on their belts. He got jumped twice. Once by older homeless men who wanted his backpack. Once by a group of kids his own age who thought it was funny. That second time, they left him bleeding outside that gas station. He thought about going home. He really did. But shame is a heavy thing, and pride even heavier. So he sat there in the dark, bleeding and alone, waiting for nothing. But just when he thought life was hard enough, things took a darker turn. The bikers stood over him like giants. Terrence had seen men like this before, on TV, in movies, dangerous men, men who hurt people. But the big one with the gray beard knelt down slow, making himself smaller. "I'm Deke," he said. "What's your name?" Terrence hesitated. Terrence. Terrence. That's a strong name. Deke looked at the cut above his eye. Who did this? Some kids. They still around? Terrence shook his head. Deke stood up and looked at his brothers. There were two others. One was younger, black, with kind eyes and a scar across his neck. His name was Jamal. The other was tall and lean, white, with a shaved head. His name was Flint. We got a first aid kit? Deke asked. Jamal nodded and walked back to his bike. You eat today? Deke asked Terrence. Terrence looked down. He didn't want to answer, didn't want to seem weak. But his stomach was so empty it hurt. That's what I thought. Deke pulled out his wallet and handed Flint a 20. Get him something hot. And a soda. Flint nodded and walked into the gas station. Jamal came back with a small red bag. He sat down next to Terrence, opened it, and pulled out antiseptic wipes and a bandage. This might sting a little, Jamal said softly. Terrence didn't flinch. He'd felt worse. Jamal cleaned the cut carefully. His hands were steady, gentle, like he'd done this before. How long you been out here? Jamal asked. I don't know. A while. You got family? Terrence's jaw tightened. No. Jamal didn't push. He just finished bandaging the cut and packed the kit back up. Flint came back with a hot dog, chips, and a Coke. He handed it to Terrence without a word. Terrence stared at the food, then at the men, then back at the food. It's not poisoned, Deke said with a small smile. Eat. Terrence ate, fast, like someone might take it away. The bikers didn't say much. They just stood there, watching the street, watching the people who walked past and ignored the kid they were helping. When Terrence finished, Deke asked the question that would change everything. You got somewhere to sleep tonight? Then you're coming with us. We got a clubhouse about 20 minutes from here, Deke said. It's not fancy, but it's safe. Warm. You can sleep on the couch. In the morning, we'll figure out what's next. I don't know you, Terrence said, suspicious. That's smart, Jamal said. Don't trust strangers. But here's the thing, little brother. You're bleeding, you're hungry, and you're alone. You got two choices. Come with us and be safe tonight, or stay out here and hope you wake up tomorrow. It wasn't really a choice. Terrence stood up slowly. His legs were shaky. You ever ride a bike? Deke asked. Terrence shook his head. Well, tonight you do. They gave him a helmet. Deke told him to hold on tight. And for the first time in weeks, Terrence felt something other than fear. He felt noticed. The clubhouse was an old warehouse on the edge of the city. Inside it was loud, music, laughter, the smell of beer and cigarette smoke. Some frowned, some didn't care. But Deke walked him straight to a back room. There was a couch, a blanket, and a bottle of water on the table. You need anything, you let me know, Deke said. Nobody's gonna hurt you here, that's my word. Get some sleep, kid. Deke closed the door. Terrence sat on the couch. His heart was still racing. He didn't trust these men. He lay down, pulled the blanket over himself, and for the first time in 3 weeks, he slept through the night. But if you think that was heartbreaking, wait until you see what came next. Terrence woke up to voices, loud voices, angry voices. Through the door, he could hear them arguing. We can't just keep him here, Deke. That's kidnapping. We didn't kidnap him. We gave him a place to sleep. Same thing in the eyes of the law. Then what do you want me to do? Throw him back on the street? Silence. Terrence stood up slowly and opened the door a crack. In the main room, Deke was standing face to face with another biker. Older, heavier. This was Bull, the club president. I want you to take him to a shelter, Bull said, or call the cops. Let them handle it. The cops don't care about kids like him, Jamal said, stepping forward. You know that. That's not our problem. Then what is our problem? Jamal's voice was rising. We ride around talking about brotherhood, about protecting people, and you want to throw a kid out because it's inconvenient? Bull's jaw tightened. Watch your tone? Or what? Jamal stepped closer. You gonna kick me out too? Deke put a hand on Jamal's chest. Easy. Bull looked at both of them. Then he sighed. 1 week, he said finally. You got 1 week to figure out what to do with him. After that, he's gone. I don't care where. But he's not our responsibility. Bull walked out. Deke exhaled slowly. Terrence stepped into the room. You don't have to keep me here, he said quietly. I can go. Deke turned around. You heard all that? Terrence nodded. Look, kid, Bull's not a bad guy. He's just scared. We all got records. Most of us did time. If the cops find out we're housing a runaway, they'll use it against us. Then I'll leave. No. It was Jamal who spoke. You're not going anywhere. Not yet. Why do you care? Terrence asked. Jamal's face softened. Because I was you once. He pulled up a chair and sat down. When I was 15, my mom kicked me out. She was an addict. Chose her boyfriend over me. I lived on the streets for 2 years. Slept in abandoned buildings. Got beat up more times than I can count. He lifted his shirt slightly, showing a long scar across his ribs. That's from a broken bottle. Some guy thought I stole from him. I didn't. Terrence stared. I got lucky, Jamal continued. A man found me. An old biker named Reaper. He's dead now. But he brought me here. Gave me a job. Gave me a family. He looked Terrence in the eyes. So yeah, I care. Because if nobody had cared about me, I'd be dead. Terrence felt something break inside his chest. Not in a bad way, in a way that let something out. I ran away, he admitted. From my dad. Deke sat down across from him. Why? Because he doesn't care. He's never around. My mom died, and after that, it's like I died too, like I don't matter. That's not true, Deke said. How do you know? Because you're here. You're still fighting. That means something. Terrence looked down at his hands. Does your dad know where you are? Deke asked. No. You think he's looking for you? Terrence shrugged. Maybe. I don't know. Deke stood up. We're gonna figure this out. But first, you need a shower and some real food. Jamal, get him some clothes. Over the next few days, Terrence stayed at the clubhouse. He helped clean. He learned how to change oil on a motorcycle. He sat with the bikers and listened to their stories. Most of them had hard lives, prison, addiction, broken families. But they had each other. And slowly, they made space for him too. One night, Deke asked Terrence about his dad again. What's his name? David Monroe. What's he do? Terrence hesitated. He works for the government. Doing what? I don't know. Something with law enforcement. Deke nodded slowly. He didn't push. But the next morning, Jamal pulled Deke aside. You Google that name? Yeah. And? And we might have a problem. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, something incredible happened. Agent David Monroe was falling apart. It had been 23 days since Terrence disappeared. 23 days of sleepless nights, of calling hospitals, of walking through homeless camps with a photo in his hand. Have you seen this boy? Have you seen my son? Nobody had. David had access to resources most parents didn't. Databases, surveillance footage, informants, but none of it mattered, because Terrence didn't want to be found. David sat in his office, staring at the picture on his desk. Terrence at 12, smiling, holding a fish they'd caught on a camping trip, back when things were good, back when his wife was alive. I'm sorry, David whispered to the photo. I'm so sorry. His phone rang. It was his partner, Agent Lisa Chen. David, we got something. What? A tip. Anonymous. Someone called the hotline. Said they saw a kid matching Terrence's description at a gas station in East Atlanta 3 days ago. David's heart jumped. Where? Corner of Moreland and Memorial. But David, there's something else. What? The caller said he was with a group of bikers, Iron Brotherhood MC. David's blood ran cold. The Iron Brotherhood. He knew that name. They weren't a violent gang, but they had history. Drugs, weapons. A few members had done serious time. "We need to move now," David said, standing up. "David, wait." But he was already out the door. Back at the clubhouse, Terrence was sitting outside with Jamal, working on a bike chain. "You're getting good at this," Jamal said. Terrence smiled a little. "It's not that hard." "That's because you're smart." "I'm not smart. I ran away from home." "That doesn't make you dumb. That makes you hurt." Terrence looked at him. "You really think my dad cares?" "I know he does." "How?" "Because if he didn't, you wouldn't be this angry. You can't be mad at someone who doesn't matter." Terrence thought about that. Then they heard the engines. Not motorcycles, cars, big ones, black SUVs. They pulled into the lot fast, tires screeching, doors opened, men in vests stepped out, FBI vests. Terrence's stomach dropped. "Oh no," he whispered. Jamal stood up slowly. "Stay behind me." Deke came out of the clubhouse, hands up. "Everyone stay calm." The lead agent stepped forward. It was David. He looked older, thinner. His eyes were red and tired, and when he saw Terrence, he stopped breathing. "Terrence." It wasn't a question. It was a prayer. "Dad?" Terrence's voice was small. David took a step forward, then another. Then he was running. He dropped to his knees in front of Terrence and pulled him into his arms. "I thought I lost you," David choked out. "I thought you were dead." Terrence didn't hug him back at first. He just stood there, stiff and confused. But then he felt his father shaking, sobbing, and something inside him cracked. "I'm sorry," Terrence whispered. "I'm sorry, Dad." No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." They stayed like that for a long time. The other agents lowered their weapons. David finally pulled back, looking at his son. "Are you hurt? Did anyone hurt you?" "No, they helped me." David looked up at Deke. "You're the one who's been keeping him safe?" Deke nodded. "Yes, sir." David stood up slowly. He looked at Deke, at Jamal, at the other bikers who had come out of the clubhouse. "You could have called the police," David said. "We were going to," Deke said, "but we wanted to make sure he was okay first. Kids like him, they slip through the cracks. We've seen it happen." David's jaw tightened. "Kids like him?" "Yes, sir. Black, alone, invisible." David looked at Terrence, then back at Deke. "You're right," David said quietly, "and I'm the one who made him invisible." He extended his hand. "Thank you for protecting my son." Deke shook his hand. "He's a good kid," Deke said. "You raised him right." David's eyes filled with tears again. "I don't know if I did, but I'm going to try harder." Terrence walked over to Jamal. "Thank you for everything." Jamal put a hand on his shoulder. "You ever need anything, you know where to find us." Terrence nodded. As David led Terrence to the car, he turned back one more time. "If there's ever anything I can do for you or your club, you let me know." Deke nodded. "Just take care of your son." "I will." David and Terrence drove away in silence. After a few minutes, Terrence spoke. "Are you mad?" "No," David said. "I'm relieved, and I'm ashamed." "Ashamed?" "Because you were right. I wasn't there. I wasn't paying attention, and I almost lost you because of it." Terrence looked out the window. "I thought you didn't care." "I care more than anything in this world. I didn't know how to show it after your mom died. I was drowning, and I made you drown with me." "Are we gonna be okay?" Terrence asked. David reached over and squeezed his hand. "Yeah, we're gonna be okay." So what does all this mean for us today? This story is more than just a father and son finding each other again. It's about the people we ignore. Terrence was invisible for 3 weeks. He walked through a major American city. Thousands of people saw him, and almost all of them looked away. Why? Because he was young. because he was black, because he was homeless. In our society, there's a script we follow, a story we tell ourselves about who deserves help and who doesn't. We see a well-dressed person struggling, and we ask if they're okay. We see a homeless teenager, and we assume they're dangerous, or lazy, or someone else's problem. This is especially true for black youth. Studies show that black boys are seen as older and less innocent than white boys of the same age. They're more likely to be stopped by police, more likely to be suspected of crimes, more likely to be treated as threats rather than children in need. Terrence experienced this firsthand. People walked past him bleeding. Store owners watched him with suspicion. He was guilty of existing in the wrong body, in the wrong place, at the wrong time. But then came the bikers, men who society had also written off, men with criminal records, men who rode motorcycles and wore leather and looked to most people dangerous. And they were the ones who stopped. They were the ones who saw a child who needed help, and they helped him. This challenges everything we think we know about who the good guys are. We want our heroes to look a certain way, to be clean-cut, to be respectable, to fit into nice, comfortable categories. But sometimes the people who save us are the ones we've been taught to fear. Deke, Jamal, and the Iron Brotherhood didn't help Terrence because they wanted credit. They didn't call the news. They didn't post about it on social media. They helped him because it was the right thing to do, and that's the truest form of humanity. This story also reveals something painful about the child welfare system. David Monroe was an FBI agent. He had resources. He had connections. He filed reports. He used every tool at his disposal. And still, his son was lost for 3 weeks. Now imagine if David wasn't an FBI agent. Imagine if he was a single black father working 2 jobs. Imagine if he didn't know how to navigate the system. How long would it have taken to find Terrence then? The truth is, thousands of black children go missing every year, and their cases don't get the same attention. They don't get Amber Alerts. They don't get news coverage. They don't get the resources. They just disappear. And when they're found, if they're found, it's often too late. Terrence was lucky. He had a father with power, and he crossed paths with men who cared. But luck shouldn't be what saves a child. This story also shows us the weight of grief. Both David and Terrence were drowning in it. After Terrence's mother died, neither of them knew how to talk about it, how to hold each other through it, how to survive it together. So they survived apart. David buried himself in work. Terrence buried himself in anger. And the distance between them grew until Terrence felt like the only option was to leave. But here's what grief does. It makes you believe lies. It makes you believe you're alone, that nobody cares, that things will never get better. And when you're young, when you're a kid, those lies feel like truth. Terrence believed his father didn't love him, and David was so consumed by his own pain that he couldn't see his son was in pain too. Grief is not an excuse, but it is an explanation, and healing from it requires honesty, vulnerability, and time. When David saw Terrence again, he didn't make excuses. He didn't defend himself. He just apologized. That's the beginning of healing. Finally, this story shows us the power of chosen family. The Iron Brotherhood wasn't Terrence's blood, but they protected him like he was. Jamal saw himself in Terrence. He knew what it was like to be discarded, to be alone, to be invisible, and he refused to let Terrence stay that way. This is the beauty of community, of people who have been broken finding each other and choosing to be whole together. Family isn't always the people you're born to. Sometimes it's the people who show up when nobody else does. Before we wrap up, there's one final truth you need to hear. 2 months after Terrence came home, David got a call. It was Deke. "Hey, Agent Monroe, got a minute?" "Of course. Is everything okay?" "Yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask you something." "Go ahead." "One of our guys is in trouble, legal trouble. He got picked up on a parole violation. Thing is, he didn't violate. The officer who wrote him up has it out for him. We got proof, but nobody's listening." David was quiet for a moment. "Send me the case details. I'll look into it." "You'd do that? You saved my son. I told you I owed you. You don't owe us anything." "Yes, I do." David hung up and smiled. Over the next few months, something unexpected happened. David started helping the Iron Brotherhood. Not with illegal things, but with legal problems. Navigating the system, getting guys connected with job programs, helping a few expunge old records. And in return, the bikers started working with David on his human trafficking cases. They had eyes and ears in places the FBI didn't. They knew the streets. They knew who to watch. They became allies. One night, David brought Terrence to the clubhouse. It was different this time. No fear, no urgency, just a visit. Jamal gave Terrence a ride on his bike. Deke taught him how to weld. Flint showed him how to throw a punch properly. "Not because I want you to fight," Flint said, "but because I want you to protect yourself." Terrence smiled. Later, as David watched his son laugh with the bikers, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Gratitude. "He looks happy," Jamal said, walking up beside him. "He does," David said. "Thanks to you." "Nah, thanks to him. Kid's stronger than he knows. He gets that from his mother." They stood in silence for a moment. "I misjudged you," David admitted. "All of you. I saw the vests, the bikes, the records, and I thought I knew who you were." "Most people do," Jamal said. "We're used to it." "You shouldn't have to be," Jamal shrugged. "World is what it is. Doesn't mean it can't change." A few weeks later, Terrence asked his dad a question. "Do you think people can really change, like actually become different?" David thought about it. "I think people can grow. I think they can heal. I think they can choose to be better than they were yesterday." "Do you think you've changed?" "Yes. Because of you." "How?" "Because you showed me what I was losing, and you gave me a chance to get it back." Terrence nodded slowly. "I'm glad I came home," he said. David pulled him into a hug. "Me too, son. Me too." This story started with a boy bleeding on the pavement. Alone, invisible, forgotten. It ended with a father and son healing together. With a community that chose compassion over judgment. With men who had been written off by society proving that redemption is real. The truth is, we all have a choice. When we see someone in pain, we can look away. We can assume they deserve it. We can tell ourselves it's not our problem. Or we can stop. We can kneel down. We can ask their name. We can offer help even when it's inconvenient. Deke and Jamal didn't have to stop for Terrence. They could have kept riding, but they didn't. And because of that choice, a family was restored, a boy was saved, and a bridge was built between two worlds that usually never meet. So here's the question for all of us. Who have we made invisible? Who have we walked past because they didn't fit our idea of who deserves help? And what would happen if we stopped? If we saw them? If we cared? Maybe we'd save someone. Maybe we'd be saved too. Because sometimes the hardest stories are the ones that heal us all. And sometimes the people we least expect become the heroes we need most.